Roger groaned and winced as he opened his eyes. He lay on his back, his headache only being worsened by the gaudy strip lighting on the grey roof above. He heard heavy breathing. Initially he thought it was just an echo of his own, but as he slowly sat up, he met a sight he could only barely comprehend. On either side of this cramped grey room were chairs. On the left, a boy of around 16 sat, tied up and gagged. He was sweating profusely and struggling for air. On the other, a girl of a similar age, also bound and sobbing quietly to herself. As he leaned forward, they both turned their heads towards him, their expressions a mixture of anguish and helplessness. "Who the hell are you? What the fuck?" There was no point in asking. It's not as if either of them could answer. Before he could begin to comprehend, a chirpy voice blasting out from an intercom filled his ears. "Well, hello there, campers. I'm glad to see that you're all awake. Roger, since you've just joined us, allow me to introduce you to your two friends. On the left, you will see David. He, like you, doesn't know where he is, and he has been moaning and crying for about 20 minutes. To be honest, I'm a little fucking tired of listening to him. On the right is Lucy. She's been whimpering for quite a while now, but she's not too bad. You're a little trooper, aren't you, Lucy?" Lucy glanced towards the voice, before making a pleading look to Roger. "Anyway," the voice chirped, "you're probably all wondering why you're here. Roger, I believe you may be able to work this one out if you take a look at what's lying on the table at the far end of the room." Even with his aching head and blurred vision, Roger could make out a steel table at the end of the room. He edged towards it, each step filling him with a deeper and deeper sense of dread. When he finally reached the table, he saw a gun sitting in front of him, an old-style six-shooter. Roger picked it up. It was heavier than it looked, cold and smooth. "Well now, Roger, I'm sure you're familiar with the game Russian Roulette. You know, put in a bullet, spin it around and see who's lucky. Well, the good news is that today you're going to get a chance to play. But we're going to do it with a twist. Today, you get to decide who here gets to live or die." Roger had understood every word, but really he felt just as confused as ever. "What are you getting from this? What the fuck did I do to deserve this?" "A few things you need to know, Roger. This room is sealed tight and only has a limited supply of oxygen. In 24 hours, the doors will open up. Unfortunately for you, there's not enough oxygen for you to last that long. You must get rid of at least one person in this room. Otherwise, it's good night. Also, I realize this slightly spoils the fun of the game, but I've gone ahead and inserted the bullet and spun the chamber for you, so no need to worry about that. Also, it's sealed up. We can't have you peeking now, can we, Roger? Anyway, I hope you have fun making up your mind. Bye!" A million things rushed through Roger's mind. Why was this happening? Was this guy telling the truth? Could he escape? Who the hell were these two kids anyway? He thought about pulling the rags off their mouths to ask them about themselves, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. He didn't want to hear their stories, or even their voices. He didn't want anything that would make the potential final decision any harder than it would already be. "Fuck this," he muttered to himself. "There's no way I'm dying in this room. I don't deserve it. There must be a way out." Attempting to keep his panic at bay, Roger began a painstaking forensic examination of the room. Every corner, every crevice, every single detail of the walls, the door, the chairs David and Lucy were sitting in, even their clothes. He inspected it all for some chink in the armour, something that told him his situation was not as it seemed. Nothing. After what must have been 2 hours, he collapsed. He sat sobbing in the corner. "Enough," he whimpered. "Enough. There's nothing I can do." He lay on the cold steel floor, gazing up at the ugly strip lighting for what seemed an eternity. It was only after about 20 minutes of this that he began to notice the deafening silence. Up until then, the silence had been regularly punctuated by the sobs and whimpers of his two unwilling companions, as well as the noise they made shifting around in their seats. He sat up and looked at David and Lucy, the two names he had wanted so desperately to forget. Their eyes had narrowed slightly, and they seemed more lethargic than before. As he got to his feet, he began to notice the effect the atmosphere was having on him. His eyes were heavy. He felt drowsy and almost light-headed. What's going on? I thought we had more time than this. With that, the horrible chirpy voice returned. Oh, sorry about that, Roger. I really thought you would have made your decision by now. Looks like you don't have as much time as I implied at the start, now do you? Looks like it's decision time pretty soon. Come on now, Roger. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Roger's circumstances began to overwhelm him. The combination of drowsiness, hopelessness, and panic began to turn his misery into anger. Screw this. I don't deserve this bullshit. What the fuck did I ever do wrong? Glancing from David to Lucy, and then back again, he swallowed hard. I'm sorry, guys. I know you're probably not guilty of much, but fuck it. Neither am I. He turned towards David. As he raised the gun, David shook violently in his chair. He closed his eyes and slowly squeezed the trigger. The hammer snapped into an empty chamber. Not wanting to take even a moment to fully comprehend the reality of what he was doing, he turned straight towards Lucy, this time pointing it towards her heart. She wept as Roger tried to ignore her muffled pleas. He pulled the trigger. The voice broke over the loudspeaker once again. Oh, 2 down, 4 to go, Roger. My, aren't you a brave boy? He said with a chuckle. Shut the fuck up! Not wanting to give even a second's more thought to what he was doing, he swung the pistol back towards David. He pulled. Back to Lucy. Pull. Once again to David. Pull. With that 5th hollow click, David opened his eyes, which had been shut tight. He glanced first timidly at Roger, and then guiltily towards Lucy. Roger stood silently in the middle of the room, flicking his eyes despondently between Lucy and the gun. She shook her head frantically. He closed his eyes, turned towards her and raised the pistol to head height. When he opened his eyes, he was met with a trembling, nervous wreck. Every inch of Lucy's body was shaking, with the gag around her mouth ragged and tear-stained. Jesus Christ, do you think I chose this? Roger blurted out as their gazes locked. Stop looking at me! Stop fucking looking at me! Lucy slowly shut her eyes and flinched. With that, Roger clenched his jaw, dropped his eyes slightly and squeezed the trigger. What the hell? Oh dear, Roger. Silly me. It looks like I forgot to load any of the chambers. Well, I say I forgot to, but that's not exactly true. You've always been a selfish bastard, but this was your opportunity to redeem yourself. All you had to do was put the gun in your mouth your fair number of times, and, hey presto, you'd all be walking out of here and back to your normal lives. But no, you had to think of yourself, didn't you? Oh well, I guess that means you'll all be saying goodnight soon, won't you? Sweet dreams, boys and girls. With that, the lights above them went out, and the only sound that pierced the screams and whimpers of his companions was the faint echo of footsteps drifting away down an adjacent hallway.